So I'm gonna round us out with a quick recommend for and I know at least two of you will also be able to have input on this. The new Xbox Game Pass hit Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
Yes.
Um,
I haven't played it, but
this
I want to.
this game has blown me away so far. I went into it with almost ground level low expectations because I just wasn't like, it's not because Bethesda published it or anything. It's just because movie tie-in games are usually shit. And and this one, and they didn't market it very well with the original trailers and stuff. The things that they chose to show off in this game are not in the trailers, is not what they should have shown off. It's like when Bloober Team released that first Silent Hill 2 trailer and it was all just janky combat and people were like, "Oh, I don't know about this." And then the actual game came out and people were like, "Oh, this is great." It's the same problem. They marketed it bad, but when you actually get to playing it, oh my god, this game is so fun. It's just pure unadulterated, like, take me back to the early 2000s fun. Um because it's a stealth game, it's an action game, it's a puzzle game, it's got a little of everything. But what I love about it is that it takes some of the best elements of games like Dishonored and Skyrim and kind of mixes them together. You know, in a way, it feels fluid to play. There are some parts that are a little janky, so when you're doing combat, the regular fisticuff combat can be a little janky, and maybe it's also just because I kind of suck at it, because you have to like parry their attacks when you have a stamina bar, so you can't just keep punching and punching because your stamina will run out and you'll start getting dizzy and blurry vision. So you got to actually like balance blocking and punching. But in this game, you can also get your hands on almost anything that you can pick up in the environment: frying pan, broomstick, shovel, hammer, all that stuff, and use them as melee weapons or sneak up behind enemies and knock them out in one hit with them. And it is so satisfying to, like, when you come up behind someone with a broomstick or something, sweep their legs out from under them and then smack them across the head with it. Then the stick breaks. You break your weapons in one hit if you use them for stealth knockouts, and if you use them for melee, the bigger, the stronger the weapon, the longer it lasts. It's got like this, the classic Silent Hill thing, or like Breath of the Wild, where weapons have stamina and they break eventually.
I
Um,
I lost count of how many glass bottles I have broken over people's heads.
exactly. And this game has some player agency too, because I've experienced very unique situations. For example, I got caught by a guy while I was trying to be stealthy, so I took the bottle in my hand and I threw it at his head. He actually dodged it, like dodged his head to the left and the bottle, and I took that opportunity to run up on him and sucker punch the shit out of him with a charged punch. And he just stood there in a daze for a second and then kind of plopped forward to the ground like a cartoon character. It was beautiful. And
That's
that's
awesome.
intentional. There are intentional, I thought it was a glitch, but no, there are intentional comedic knockouts in this game where, like, sometimes, like, there's an ability where if you hold the whip button, you can actually grab an enemy with the whip and pull them towards you, and then grab them by the shirt collar and then start punching the fuck out of them with your other hand. And
Really?
if you get a good hit in like that, they will actually, like, they'll go cross-eyed and shit and then kind of fall over in a comedic fashion. It's intentional.
Okay.
um yeah, I really love that. Um, the story is basically, it takes place between the first and second movies. Well, chronologically, the first and second movies. Chronologically, Temple of Doom comes first, Indiana Jones story wise, but it was the second movie. And then it's Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then The Last Crusade. This game comes between Raiders and Crusade, story wise. Um, so some big guy played by Tony Todd has broken into Indy's museum, and he, rest in peace, Tony Todd. And he stole the cat mummy artifact, and Indy's trying to get it back. And you go through all kinds of adventures in first person. It switches to third person sometimes when you're like climbing and stuff. There are puzzles, but the combat and puzzle difficulty are separate, so you can set them separately. And if you put puzzle difficulty on easy, if you're someone that's not good at them or doesn't like them, if you put it on easy, this game will literally hand you the answers. In the very beginning of the game, it even goes so far as to, you have to put this stick on these buttons on the ground to press the right ones to avoid these arrows being shot out. And it's a scene directly from the first movie in a dream that he's having. And That's another thing. The beginning of this game faithfully recreates a scene from the first movie really, really well. Um, but if you're playing on easy, literally the ones you're not supposed to touch will light up yellow when you're looking at them, be completely smooth, and the one you're supposed to touch will have the interact button on it. So it literally tells you what to do. And it's the same later. I just got the camera not too long ago, and I was doing a puzzle in the catacombs under the Vatican, and I got to this point where I had to pull some levers on a picture of Jesus, and I took like 7 pictures of it, and every time I took a picture, it gave me another hint on the answer. It got to the point where I just walked up to an indie who was like, all right, this one's supposed to be 4, this one's supposed to be 3, and I'm like, oh, you're just telling me. Okay. So I imagine it's not like that if you play it on harder, though. I'm playing it on easy, though, because I like to enjoy the story. And the combat as well, because I also, since I'm playing on easy, the stealth mechanics are a little broken because I can knock an enemy out like 3 feet behind his buddy, and his buddy won't even know if it's a stealth knockout, even though I'm smashing him in the head with a frying pan and making all the noise. Um, and But it's probably because I'm playing on easy. If I was playing on harder difficulty, the stealth would be probably less forgiving, I imagine. So, and in some areas, even on easy, the stealth is still a little unforgiving. I've had parts where I've been caught by a guard in an area I wasn't supposed to be in, and the next thing I know, not only is like 7 guards on my ass, but like 3 random civilians and 2 construction workers as well are chasing me around. I'm like, oh, this is like old Assassin's Creed where sometimes civilians get in on the fight if you piss people off enough. You know, that's insane. Um, so but I think the stealth is mostly well handled and all that. My only other complaint is I'm playing it on the Series S, and the graphical drops, the sacrifices they had to make to the visuals to get it run on the Series S are a little noticeable. It is really blurry sometimes, but I do like the atmosphere when you're in like temples and catacombs and stuff. When I went into the catacombs under the Vatican, I was walking around with a torch, you know, like looking for collectibles, solving puzzles and stuff. I was like, ooh, this is creepy. It's giving me horror game vibes being down here in the dark. I love it. So, um, so with those positives and negatives combined, so far, even though I haven't finished it, so far, I would give the game a 9 out of 10. That might change by the end of it, but that's my score so far. Um, has anybody else who played this want to give any input on it?
I haven't played it yet.
Yeah. So, because I will be completely and totally honest with you, I have a bit of a different sentiment so far from what I've played for Indiana Jones. I It hasn't captured my attention, and I haven't personally super loved it so far. I know this is something
That's fair.
and I know this is something that's created by Bethesda, and I am a Bethesda fan. Love the Fallout.
Published by Bethesda, to be clear, it was
Yeah.
developed by Machine Games, which I think is the ones who did Dishonored.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. And I will, and candidly, I have not played Dishonored. Have played just about everything from Bethesda. Um, I a few things. One, I don't have a problem with first person games. But when it's you're playing somebody that's as iconic of a character as Indiana Jones, I do find it a little weird playing as him in a first person point of view. I would have really loved the opportunity to have a third person, whether it be that more cinematic Last of Us style of gameplay, or even more broad out where it's like more RPG style. It just
Right.
I prefer that visual, and I feel like for what you're doing of a lot of the sneak and the stealth and puzzle and looking around, I feel like it would have worked better for and that's just my own personal opinion on that. But I don't know what it is about it that hasn't like fully had me invested in. The very first mission, which again is that dream sequence of Temple of Doom, was really cool and really exciting. And I was like, okay, this is what the game is going to be like. You know what? I can see this being awesome and totally amazing. As I started playing through, the second chapter, third chapter, fourth chapter, and I think I'm a bit behind where you're at right now, Justin. I just got to the catacombs that are in the Vatican. So far
Okay.
it's felt very slow. I'm playing it on hard difficulty. Um,
Okay.
the stealth itself is honestly sounds pretty much the same as to what you're experiencing. I think the health is a bit higher because I usually have to go through like, if I bonk someone with a glass bottle, it doesn't knock them out. I actually have to like use a secondary thing, so I usually kind of stay away from the bottles outside of if I'm
Mm.
trying to divert someone away. Uh,
Yeah, they make good distractions when you throw them.
yeah, it's a great distraction tool, and I think it may just it. I don't think it's a bad game because visually it's stunning and it runs well. I think it's one of those player preference things where I'm not a big stealth person.
Right.
Anytime a mission in any game has a stealth opportunity, like I know myself and Daniel, we're replaying through Cyberpunk right now. Anytime there's the option to stealth, the answer is no. I'm going in guns ablazing. And
Yeah, and it might just be all the horror games that I play, or
yeah,
in fact, I grew up on like Assassin's Creed, but I've become really good at stealth
well,
in games.
and that's what's
Like,
funny is like I love the Assassin's Creed franchise. Like I've played just about every single one through its entirety. I think with the exception of like Assassin's Creed China. Um,
hmm,
and but I mean, a good portion of like Assassin's Creed missions are not really required to be stealth, and I guess it doesn't really necessarily have to be stealth for Indiana Jones, but it feels
yeah,
really pushes you towards that. Like
it does.
yeah,
It is a stealth game at its core, and I think that's why it's in first person. If I'm being fair, because
yeah,
stealth mechanics tend to work better in first person when you're like sneaking up behind people and knocking them out with a shovel. Um, but uh, it is also an action game too, and it's not forced stealth in a lot of areas. You can, at least on easy, fight your way out of most situations if you get caught. It's
right,
not like an instant fail,
yeah, and
situation.
that's the thing. I think it's because like and it's like for me personally, again, stealth has never been a big thing for me, but at the same time, I'm also a massive fan of the Metal Gear series, and
Yeah.
I'm also someone that played the ever living crap out of Splinter Cell 1, 2, and 3 on the PS2, PS3, and loved it. But those games, again, they're in third person, so I guess that may be a part of why
Yeah.
I'm struggling enjoying the first person point of view. Um,
And that's also why I compared it to like Dishonored and Skyrim, is because of the first person view and just the way the mechanics are. Like when you have a melee weapon, in order to drop it or put it away, you have to hit the Y or triangle button.
yeah,
You know, that kind of, and it's basically the same controls. And also, like when I was in the Vatican going through the soldiers' tents, they said if you want to steal money, you have to be in stealth mode, otherwise they'll see you
right,
and they'll come after you. I'm like, oh, that's like the guards in Skyrim.
yeah.
You know.
So in this thing, I feel so bad for saying this. I really do. I think a big part of it that also pulls me out, and I feel like I'm a really big or really small minority in this thought is I am not the biggest fan of Troy Baker playing Indiana Jones, and I don't know what it is
Oh, really?
about his voice. I don't know what it is because it's almost like he sounds so close, but it's like when you hear a song that's just slightly off key. I don't know why why it bugs me so much because again,
Yeah.
I love Troy Baker as an actor. Like the things that he's done in gaming. I mean, looking at even just something like The Last of Us and The Last of Us Part Two, or looking at him in the Batman games. Like I've really enjoyed a lot of the things that he's done, and so when I heard Troy Baker was voicing this, I was like, oh, I'm gonna love that. And then he started talking. I'm like, I don't know why this is just not sinking in my head as well as I want it to, but it's not. And it's frustrating because again, I love the Indiana Jones series. I love Troy Baker. There's a lot of things that I do enjoy, and I am going to stick with it. Maybe I was just having an off night because again, I only played for like a couple 2-3 hours. I have it on Game Pass, so I was like, well, I don't have to spend any more money than I'm already paying for Game Pass. So like, why not play
Fair
and
enough.
try it out? I do plan on going back to it and trying it out again. Probably after I finish Metaphor. You know, but that's I guess that's my like differing opinion on it. It's like I'm not saying it's a bad game. I'm saying I don't know if it's a game for me, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, that does make sense. I'm glad that you brought up Troy Baker's performance though, because I actually have the opposite like experience. I think he nails it. Personally, but you can still tell it's him, obviously. But to me, it's like the when Will Smith played the genie. It's not a bad portrayal. It's just a different portrayal, but still respectful to the original, while also making it his own. And that's how I look at it.
Okay.
It's it's like, because if Robin Williams was still alive when that movie came out, he would have been proud of Will Smith's genie. I truly think he
Yeah.
would have loved it. And Harrison Ford gave his seal approval to Troy Baker's performance on stage at the Game Awards, and
know.
that's all I need.
I know,
You know.
and that's why it pains me to say, because again, I'm a sucker for any performance by Troy Baker, and again, it's like that weird thing. It's like if you're listening to somebody play a song and their guitar is just the slightest bit not tuned, and something about it just feels off.
Right.
That's how it feels as I'm listening to him play Indiana Jones.
Uncanny Valley.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. Daniel,
You can hear Joel.
Yeah.
You can hear Joel sometimes.
Daniel, I think, wanted to share actually a fun experience that he and I had talking with a couple that we met here at the
Oh,
hotel.
I wasn't going to talk about that. I was
Oh.
going to say I think that Harrison Ford would agree with that Troy Baker killed it.
Yeah,
He
he
said
did.
that.
He literally did.
He did say if I had known he was so good, I would have just done it myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good. I also want to mention the game does kind of have side quests, what you could loosely call side quests. Like in the Vatican, there's this lady that you can give medicine to if you find bottles of medicine laying around and trade them in for upgrades and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It has some minor RPG elements. There are secrets you can find, pictures you can take with your camera that give you adventure points that you can use to upgrade stuff to, and bread and fruit give you extra health and stamina and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So. It's very there's a lot going on in this game.
Yeah, you know what I honestly think a big reason why I'm not, or I get not a big reason, another factor is listening to people like preview this game and talk about it prior to its official release and everything else. Is I had heard from, I think, a couple different podcasts and just a few different clips on like TikTok and all of that, people saying this is Xbox's answer to Uncharted. And
No, it's
not-
nothing like Uncharted.
it could not
It's-
be farther. It could not be farther from Uncharted.
No.
Uh,
Uncharted was Sony's answer to Indiana Jones. That's more accurate.
I fully agree with you on that. So that's I think that may have also played into a factor of like, I'm booting up this game anticipating something like, a Uncharted, even if it's like a first person, version of Uncharted. And it wasn't that. And I'm like, okay, well, I feel like how everyone felt when Suicide Squad first came out, just feeling completely duped.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, if you want a first-person Uncharted, play a little Xbox 360 game called Deadfall Adventures.
okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, that's my 2 cents on it so far.
Yeah. Okay. Nick, you've played some of it. Where do you stand on all that?
Oh, dude, I agree with all of it. I really love the fact. Okay, so there was one complaint I
Okay.
have. Indy's fear of snakes.
Yeah. I haven't ran into any snakes in this game yet.
Dude, how far are you?
I'm still in the Vatican. Remember, you leave the museum, you pack your suitcase, you go to the Vatican, you meet Antonio, and I just went through, I got the camera, I took all the pictures, I went under the Vatican, I did the puzzles down there, then the car came crashing through the roof and I had to, climb out, and then You know, I did all that, and I went back to Antonio and gave him the stuff, and I think I'm like ready to move on to the next story part now.
I'm further than you then, because
Oh, yeah, definitely.
yeah. You legitimately, they force you to interact with a snake.
Mm.
It was.
Spiders too. There's a lot of spiders in this game. I
I
remember one
noticed
crawling up
that.
his arm when you had to put your hand in a hole to turn a lever, and I'm like, I've always hated that in those like National Treasure type things where they stick their hand in that hole and you don't know what's in there. Like I wouldn't do that shit.
No.
You know?
Well, that's because the mummy
But,
traumatized.
The Mummy. God damn.
Yeah, the Mummy.
That
Yep.
brings me back. No, I was thankfully able to interact with it without even looking up. So there's that.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah, that's one thing I can say I have in common with Indiana Jones. I fucking can't not stand snake. I'm scared shitless.
Yep.
So that part of the game.
Yeah,
is
he
a
wasn't.
horror
He's
game
not
for
bothered by. What's that?
you. So that part of the game makes it a horror game for you.
Yeah, pretty fucking
Yeah.
much.
Well, in Ryan, if he ever plays it, he's not gonna like the spiders. He's got a thing for like
Yeah.
you with snakes. It's him with spiders.
That's
so.
a fair. Yeah, there's a
And-
lot of them in there.
And there's literally like in the dream sequence in the beginning, there's a scene straight from the what the hell's the first movie called again? Not Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a scene straight from it where the guy turns around and he's like covered in spiders all over his back. It's right after they climb through the spider webs in the temple. Yeah, but they do the whole thing where like you run from the boulder at the end and everything too, just like the movie. It's so cool.
Yeah, I mean,
I've
I've gone and found the mummy cat statue, and yeah, I moved on to the next part of the game.
Oh, I'm surprised because you don't, stealth doesn't normally appeal to you, but you're flying through
Dude, this game is so fucking good. I'm having a blast.
There's an exception to every rule.
I'm having a blast with it. It's the damn whip.
The whip does add a lot. The whip does add a lot. You can stun enemies. You can pull them in close to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I heard the reason they did this game in first person was because they thought if they did third person, it would look too much like Uncharted.
Yeah, I guess I could see that, but also I guess I would argue that the first person perspective plays better to Bethesda's game mechanics.
Well, then they wanted you to
As
feel
well.
more like indie instead of watching indie,
Honestly, I can't imagine a Bethesda game in third person because even if you play Skyrim or Starfield in third person, the controls still play like a first person game.
I'm the monster that plays it in third person. I'm not even gonna lie.
But that's the thing too. Even third-person games now, I still control them like first-person games. I push forward on the stick to move, but I don't move the left stick left or right when I'm trying to turn. I turn the camera to turn while still holding forward on the stick in every game, be it first or third person. I play them, I guess you could say, cinematically.
Yeah, I mean that's how I play them myself, and I do it because I think it looks cooler that way.
Yep. Yeah. Cinematic camera pans. Yeah. You're great. Okay.